Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva. Srimvatam Swakata Krishna.
Srimvatam Swakata Krishna.
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha.
Punya Kirtanaha.
Vidyantasto Vibhadrani.
Vidyantasto Vibhadrani.
Vidunoti Suritsatam.
Vidunoti Suritsatam.
Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashtapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, no mercy whatsoever. I got it here. So, it's a reading from Bhagavatam, Canto 2. Chapter 3, that's the title, chapter 3, Devotional Service, text 14. A touch.
A touch.
This is written shu, but in the word meanings it's a tat and then shu. So it's the T and the S turn into a CH, so a touch. And then chu, shru, shatam.
No, now it's like
Shru shatam.
Shru shatam.
Vidvan. A touch chu shru shatam vidvan.
A touch chu shatam vidvan. Suta. No.
Rehasi. Bashitum. Suta no rehasi bashitum. Kata. Hari. Kato dargaha. Kata hari kato dargaha. Satam. Shu. Sadasi.
Sadasi.
Shu, it's siu.
Su.
When you said Sadasi, Dhruvam,
Dhruvam,
Satam Syu Sadasi Dhruvam,
Satam Shu Sadasi Dhruvam,
Etach Chu Shru Shatam Vidvan,
Etachu Satam Vidvan,
Sutano Rihasiba Shitum,
Sutano Rihasitum,
Katahari Kato Dargaha,
Katahari Katadakaha,
Satam Syu Sadasi Dhruvam. Let me get the word. Satam Syu Sadasi Dhruvam,
Setam Sadasi Dhruvam,
Etach Chu Shru Shatam Vidvan,
Etachu Satam Vidvan.
Sutano Rihasiba.
There's no dot under the R, so you don't say re, you say nor hasi.
Nor, okay, that's why it won't work out, thanks. Sutta nor hasiba shitum, works better.
Sutta
Katahari kato dargaha,
Katahari Katodakaha,
satam syu sadasi dhruvam.
Satam Shu Sadasi Dhruvam.
Issues today. Is that 2 times or 3?
I think that's three.
Do you want me to do it again?
Oh, yeah.
Etach chu shru shatam vidvan,
Etachu Satam Vidvan,
sutta nor hasiba shitum,
Sutano Hasiva Chitam,
Katahari kato dargaha,
Katahari Katodakaha,
satam syu sadasi dhruvam.
Satam Shu Sadasi Dhruvam, Etaschu Shru Satam Vidvan,
Etachu Satam Vidvan,
Sutana Harsi Vishitam,
Sutano Rihasitam,
Katahari Katodaka,
Katahari Katodaka,
Satam Shu Sadasi Dhruvam,
Satam Shu Sadasi Dhruvam,
Etachu shru shatam vidvan,
Etachu Satam Vidvan,
Sutta nor hasiba shitum,
Sutano Rihasitam,
Katahari kato darka,
Katahari Katodaka,
Satam syu sadasi dhruvam,
Satam Shu Sadasi Dhruvam, Etachu Satam Vidvan, Sutano Rihasitam, Katahari Katodaka, Satam Shu Sadasi Dhruvam,
Etachu Satam Vidvan,
Etachu Satam Vidvan,
Sutano
Sutano Rasibashitam,
Katahari Katodarka,
Katahari Katodaka,
Satam Su Sadasi Dhruvam,
Satam Shu Sadasi Dhruvam.
The word meanings. Etat,
Etat, this,
shu shru shatam,
Shu Shatam,
of those eager to hear.
those eager to hear,
Vidvan,
Vidvan,
O learned.
O learned,
Sutta,
Sutta,
Sutta Goswami.
Sutta Goswami,
Naha,
Naha,
unto us.
unto us,
Arhasi, may
Ahasi,
you do it.
may you do it,
Bashitum,
Bashitum,
just to explain it.
just to explain it,
Kataha,
Kataha,
topics.
topics,
That's what kata means. Hari kata urukaha.
Hari Kata Udakaha,
I said that wrong.
Hari Kata Udakaha, Udaka,
Yeah, Hari kata udarkaha.
Hari Kata Udakaha,
Result in the topics of the Lord.
results in the topics of the Lord. Result in the topics of
It just said result in the topics of the Lord. Satam,
Satam,
of the devotees.
of the devotees,
Syuhu,
Suhu,
maybe.
maybe,
Sadasi,
Sadasi,
in the assembly of.
in the assembly of,
Dhruvam,
Dhruvam,
certainly.
certainly.
Okay. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
O learned Sutta Goswami, please continue to explain such topics to us, because we are all eager to hear. Besides that, topics which result in the discussion of Lord Hari should certainly be discussed in the assembly of devotees. Please repeat. O learned Sutta Goswami,
O learned Sutta Goswami,
please continue to explain such topics to us,
please continue to explain such topics to us,
because we are all eager to hear.
because we are all eager to hear.
Besides that, topics which result in the discussion of Lord Hari
topics which result in discussion of the Lord
should certainly be discussed in the assembly of devotees.
in the assembly of devotees.
Okay, purport. As we have already quoted above from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami, even mundane things, if dovetailed in the service of the Lord Sri Krishna, are accepted as transcendental. For example, the epics or the histories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are specifically recommended for the less intelligent classes, women, Shudras, and unworthy sons of the higher classes. I always get these verses. That's all of us. I mean, there's no, how many real Kshatris and real Brahmanas are there around here anyway, so that means all of us. Are also accepted as, and need not to insult anybody, but what I mean is in this background, in this culture that we all grew up in, you know, it includes all of us. We're all, huh? What does that mean?
Everyone in Kali is born Sudra.
Yeah. So, the women don't have to take special offense about that. Are also accepted as Vedic literature. These, okay. Epics of, for example, the epics or the histories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are specifically recommended for the less intelligent classes, women, Shudras, and unworthy sons of the higher classes, are also accepted as Vedic literature because they are compiled in connection with the activities of the Lord. Mahabharata is accepted as the fifth division of the Vedas after its first four divisions, namely Sama, Yajur, Rik, and Atharva. The less intelligent do not accept Mahabharata as part of the Vedas, but great sages and authorities accept it as the fifth division of the Vedas. Bhagavad Gita is also part of the Mahabharata, and it is full of the Lord's instruction for the less intelligent class of men. Some less intelligent men say that Bhagavad Gita is not meant for householders, but such foolish men forget that Bhagavad Gita was explained to Arjuna, a grihastha, family man, and spoken by the Lord in his role as a grihastha. So Bhagavad Gita, although containing the high philosophy of the Vedic wisdom, is for the beginners in the transcendental science, and Srimad Bhagavatam is for graduates and postgraduates in the transcendental science. Therefore, literatures like Mahabharata, the Puranas, and similar other literatures, which are full of the pastimes of the Lord, are all transcendental literatures, and they should be discussed with full confidence in the society of great devotees. The difficulty is that such literatures, when discussed by professional men, appear to be mundane literature, like histories or epics, because there are so many historical facts and figures. It is said here, however, that such literature should be discussed in the assembly of devotees. Unless they're discussed by devotees, such literatures cannot be relished by the higher class of men. So the conclusion is that the Lord is not impersonal in the ultimate issue. He is the supreme person, and he has his different activities. He is the leader of all living entities, and he descends at his will and by his personal energy to reclaim the fallen souls. Thus he plays exactly like the social, political, or religious leaders. Because such roles ultimately culminate in the discussion of topics of the Lord, all such preliminary topics are also transcendental. That is the way of spiritualizing the civic activities of human society. Men have inclinations for studying history and many other mundane literatures, stories, fiction, dramas, magazines, newspapers, etc. So let them be dovetailed with the transcendental service of the Lord, and all of them will turn to the topics relished by all devotees. The propaganda that the Lord is impersonal, that he has no activity, and that he is a dumb stone without any name and form, has encouraged people to become godless, faithless demons. And the more they deviate from the transcendental activities of the Lord, the more they become accustomed to mundane activities that only clear their path to hell instead of return them home back to Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam begins from the history of the Pandavas with necessary politics and social activities, and yet Srimad Bhagavatam is said to be the Paramahamsa Samhita, or the Vedic literature meant for the topmost transcendentalists, and it describes Param Jnanam, the highest transcendental knowledge. Pure devotees of the Lord are all Paramahamsas, and they are like the swans, who know the art of sucking milk out of a mixture of milk and water. So, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and I opened my eyes when my eyes were open. I looked at something on the page and last night my eyes were opened by the torchlight of knowledge. And spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, and offer my respectful obeisances unto him. I just noticed there's an asterisk in my phone, but there's no footnote, but there is a footnote here. So where's the asterisk? It appears. Only prayer that Papa Calvin said to return them home back together in the book. The footnote says, even 50 years ago, the social structure of all Indians was so arranged that they would not read any literature that was not connected with the activities of the Lord. They would not play any drama not connected with the Lord. They would not organize a fair or ceremony not connected with the Lord. Nor would they visit a place that was not holy and sanctified by the pastimes of the Lord. Therefore, even the common man in the village would talk about Ramayana and Madhava-priya, Gita and Bhagavatam, even from his very childhood. But by the influence of the age of Kali, they have been dragged to the civilization of the dogs and hogs, laboring for bread without any sense of transcendental knowledge. I would say that's more than 50 years ago now, so more time has passed. So, and I guess it might probably got worse there in India too, because all the influence is there. So, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana are exciting stories, and they have all the intrigue like a good novel. They have all this good stuff in them, and people like to read them. In fact, I remember I used to think that how devotees sometimes get together and gossip about the Mahabharata, and so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that, and like that, and talk about it and get the name straight. It was so-and-so who did it. No, it was this other person. And they would talk about it because it would be interesting. And so devotees like to read that and talk about it. And it contains all this information about Krishna, the activities of Krishna. So, and then in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 5th canto, Rishi Maharaj asks about the universe. He wants to know, what is this universe that Krishna created? So he's curious about Krishna's creation. But it's in relation to Krishna. Nowadays we're all curious too, but modern scientists try their best to not talk about it in relation to God. But some people will still try to think about it in relation to God. Well, God created this. How did God do that? And so on and so on. They'll still try to think about it like that if they have any belief in God. But the devotees will like to talk about this because they're talking about Krishna. Even mundane, it says mundane newspapers. Well, that I think it means the attraction to mundane newspapers is satisfied by reading Ramayana and Mahabharata. Of course, we have to know what's going on in the world. We have to read. But then one can even take in mundane newspapers by filtering it through transcendental knowledge. Because we do when we it's real easy to say when we read about Trump, we say, yes, Bhagavad Gita says demons are like this. And so we all think in terms of Bhagavad Gita instruction of what a demon is, except certain people are really pro-Trump, but and they're not thinking that. But some people think that way. Did I say the wrong thing?
No, don't worry. Too sensitive today. It's okay.
Did I say the wrong thing?
No, absolutely not. I just want to say my guru one time, John Pakistani was lecturing here, and he said, I was on an airplane and I was so unfortunate that someone gave me a newspaper, and more unfortunate than that I read it.
Yeah. Well, it gives you an opportunity to analyze the world by Bhagavad Gita principles, because Bhagavad Gita is a psychology book, among other things, because it tells us how the modes affect the mind, and how different kinds of people react, and so it's a psychology book, so we can practice. If we read some mundane newspaper or article or something like that, we could practice by analyzing it in terms of Bhagavad Gita. So, is he?
You what?
Well, you have to take the sign down.
Why?
I saw a vision yesterday, I was telling them about the exterior and how
Yeah, we just now did
it's
it.
been done,
Yeah,
and
put
how
it
it
up.
would be a good idea to put it there.
What's
But
that?
somebody-
Oh, they, here,
So
I
I
already
asked
announced
them
on
just
some-
before this all started that, you know, my little avatar just painted it, and she was asking everyone not to put a sign, duct tape, sign with duct tape up. So maybe
Yeah.
you could think of some other place to put it. And he said, okay, no problem. Put it in the kitchen where
Yeah.
everybody thinks to.
yeah, everybody goes there.
That's all.
Is that,
That's all.
we're not talking about a Trump campaign sign.
No, it's a Harinam.
Oh, okay, because he had to get up in the middle of class and take the sign down, okay.
Well,
He does that all the time.
Yeah, I know, it's just the timing made me think, oh.
He's
I'll
not
tell you.
thinking about you or
Okay.
us, or he
Yeah.
just think, okay, I gotta get out of here. We all are used to that, you know.
Okay, I know, I usually am too, but the
Yeah.
timing made me think.
Yeah, today the timing is
Yeah.
not right.
I'll tell you about it.
Okay, but anyways, people think, oh, it's, you know, they analyze the news by Bhagavad Gita. And they could do it much more, because there's a whole lot more demons running around in charge of things by the analysis of the Bhagavad Gita. And if we apply the Bhagavad Gita, we know everything. We know everything about what's happening. So, same here, and when we read the Ramayana, the explanation of everything is given. So we know who's the demon, who's not, and why, what they're doing is demonic, and so on, and who's the devotee. And so these things are all part of it, and in the Bhagavatam does start, well, it starts right where the Bhagavad Gita left off. The Bhagavad Gita left off with Krishna and Arjuna in the chariot, and it opens up the Bhagavatam. Krishna and Arjuna are in the chariot chasing Ashvatam as the last act of the war. So the Bhagavatam starts, not only does the Bhagavad Gita also say, Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. And the second verse of the Bhagavatam says, leaving aside all mundane religion, some kind of it. It starts, the Bhagavatam starts right after the Bhagavad Gita. But the Bhagavatam is all about Krishna's activities and qualities, where the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna speaking. We have that difference. And Bhagavad Gita is about a lot about the philosophy as we need it in this world. So it's some of the Bhagavad Gita, believe it or not, temporary. It's eternally true, but it's temporary for us because we won't always be identifying with these bodies. We won't always be in a material body that's different from the soul. When we go back to Godhead, the soul will expand and become the body. And so there's no more need of any Bhagavad Gita knowledge about how we're not the body in the spiritual world. So for us, the Bhagavad Gita knowledge, some of it is a temporary thing. Of course, when it says just serve me, just be my devotee, that's eternal. That's what they do in the spiritual world. And the Bhagavatam leads to that because it leads ultimately to the 10th canto. The incarnations before the 10th canto are still Krishna's pastimes, activities, but they are Vishnu level. And then finally, the Vishnu forms that come in the pastime incarnations. And then in the 10th canto, Krishna himself comes. The 10th canto is the gem, the special part that brings us to the spiritual world itself. So the 10th canto leads up to that and builds up to that. So, but Krishna is a person. He interacts with the material world too. He's not some stone or he's not some impersonal something. He has activities. He comes to the material world in different forms, and he has activities, and we can talk about that. And we can talk about the things that are going on in the material world if they relate to Krishna. Or if we can relate them to Krishna, we can talk about it that way, and that strengthens our Krishna consciousness. So in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we have the 4 nutshell verses, and we have the second one, which is Machchitama Kitapana Bodhayanta Parasparam Katayantaschamam Nityam Tushyanti Charamanti Cha. The thoughts of my true devotees dwell in me, their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So this is what we do in the Bhagavatam class. We enlighten one another. Nobody has to be smarter than anybody else or anything, but everybody knows something a little different, and everybody has, like, realization a little bit different from the other, but still true. What I'm saying is different angles, different aspects. So we share them and we enlighten one another, so we all grow from this exchange. So that's good. Let's see, anything else about this? It says, such literature, the difficulty of such literatures when discussed by professional men appear to be mundane literature, like histories or epics, because there's so many historical facts and figures. Well, we have these people called Indologists, which is a made-up science, because they aren't Indians, they are outside people who conquered Indians and want to create a study, want to create the idea of what Indian philosophy and history is, so they justify themselves. They're not being honest. But that has permeated, and so now we have, discussions of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana and things like this in universities, and they're studying history and everything, and you can't get anything transcendental out of that kind of talk because their purpose is to be materialistic. And somebody may be wrapped up in that and look at the historical facts and figures and think it's mundane. But that kind of talk can't be relished, especially, it can't be relished by anybody. I guess you can relish kind of triumphing over putting down the Indians in some artificial way. I guess you can, if you're a certain type of person, you can sort of relish that, but you can't really happily, transcendentally relish talking about it in a mundane way. It has to be talked about among devotees, and then you can relish it. And, let's see, some people take it to an extreme. They say, well, there's two different extremes mentioned here. One is that this is all considered mundane, just because it has history in it. It's mundane. And so it can't be really Vedas. But the Mahabharata is considered the fifth Veda. Well, it's largely, I'm sure, because of the Bhagavad Gita being in it. But it also does have a lot of, there's other spiritual conversations and stories in the Mahabharata that give us spiritual knowledge. So, why the Puranas? Why are the Puranas? I guess they're just a different category. Why is it not a Purana? Anyway, I don't understand that, but it makes a Veda because of the Bhagavad Gita mainly. Because the Bhagavad Gita is spoken straight by Krishna. So, the other extreme is to say that, what is it? There's two extremes. One is to say it's not. Some less intelligent people, wait a minute. It's for less intelligent people, but the most intelligent people, the transcendental intelligent people know that it is transcendental. And it's, I have this distinction in my mind. So there's two extremes, and I can't say it. Some less intelligent men say that Bhagavad Gita is not meant for households. To go to one extreme or another, because it's got some history and some story to it, it's not really transcendental, or it's not really the highest. And that's the actual intelligent people know better, because they know that it contains the highest. Then the other extreme is, it's okay, it contains the highest, so therefore it's not for householders and lower class people. But it is for everybody. So both of these extremes are wrong. So we have been given the right understanding by Srila Prabhupada, and we should, it says in an interesting sentence here, it should be discussed with full confidence in the society of great devotees. So we should have any doubt that we're talking about something less, that we like to talk about the Mahabharata, shouldn't have any doubt. Mahabharata contains Bhagavad Gita. We talk about Bhagavad Gita. We should, with full confidence, talk about these things and know that it's all a part of the highest understanding. So, stop there. So, anybody else?
My guru said that when he read the newspaper, the article he read was about a plane that crashed on the runway coming in. Mm-hmm. And he said when it crashed, the cabin opened up and the 8 crew members were thrown free and they were okay. And the rest of the airplane with all the passengers burned up. And he said, so you can see that if it's not your karma, it's not going to happen to you.
Yeah, so he got a spiritual principle out of that one.
Well, everything he sees.
Yeah, I was going to say, I said, but that's not the thing you want to read while you're on the airplane.
Well, he trusts in Krishna.
Yeah.
I was alarmed when I saw him arrive on a value jet, and I was thinking how cheap these jets are, and my guru is on it.
Yeah. So I guess there's a lot fewer crashes than you'd expect, but still, it's kind of it's a scary thing. To be on an airplane, and the only way off the airplane is to come down and land, and read the story about how the airplane crashed on landing. I suppose it's not much fun.
That part didn't seem to bother him. It was an example that those 8 people obviously didn't have the karma to burn up in the airplane.
Yeah.
So Krishna saved them in a very unusual way.
Yeah, it's amazing how you could be thrown out.
Well, he
And
said that it cracked open on the top when they were thrown free. And the whole airplane burned up and everybody shot,
Wow.
except for those 8 people.
That's really a freak thing. Wow. Okay, anybody else? Yeah.
I was thinking, when I was talking about the airplane, what came to my mind was I read about Chant Be Happy, and in it where George Harrison, maybe not there, but George Harrison, he was in a plane like that, and all of a sudden the plane started, and immediately he started chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
And then the plane, Krishna protected.
Well, does it have? I think I told this story before too, but does have to be a plane and a car. We were coming up to there was a place where there was a rise on the road that we had to come up to and cross. There was a rise right before. We'd come up to it, and this road was at sort of an angle coming up to this road, and you have to stop, and you couldn't see over the hill if somebody was coming. So they stopped and started going, and at one time somebody's speeding over the hill and would hit us. Instead they veered onto, because it was an angle, so they veered onto the road and missed us, but veered onto the road we just come from. And I turned around and looked, and they were going like this, And I said out loud, Krishna, please don't let them crash. Because I didn't want them to crash just because they were trying to not hit us, We instinctively said that out loud, Krishna, don't let them crash. And they were all of a sudden,
Oh, wow.
So, it doesn't always happen. It has to go by mechanics.
The reason we were able to buy this farm is because the owner, who was a horse ranger, his wife and daughter were in a fatal accident on that first hill where you can't see over the hill.
That's how we got this
And
one.
a big pickup truck had a head-on collision, big pickup truck with the push bars on the front. Hit her. They had a full-size station wagon. And they died immediately. The pickup truck driver lived, but he was in the hospital for a very long time. But the man was not able to keep living here after that happened to his wife and daughter, and he sold it to the Hare Krishna.
And to add to that story, since you brought it up, he used to be in the sea, right? He was a sailor or something. And then
He's a seaman.
Sailor, the water. And he used to bring, this is a rumor, I don't know, I'm still looking for it, because I heard this when I first came. And he would bring treasures and money and different things back here, and this lady would have buried in different parts of this place. Okay? So that was the rumor I heard, that she has lots of money and everything, but they don't want to claim or anything, they bury it under. I went several places looking for it, and I'm still looking for it. Can't find it.
We should get a metal detector.
Yes, we have heard about it. They said in different parts of this place.
Guess who has a metal detector?
You don't know that now, Krishna Chakra would know about it.
I keep telling him to get rid of stuff, and every time something comes up, he says, well, I have that.
You just never know whether that's true or not. That's what I heard. Did you hear that?
No,
Yeah.
I think somebody might have mentioned it to me before. I've heard other people there again.
Gold,
Oh,
yeah.
That's what we
We
need.
heard 3 people died on this highway. This road out here.
I knew about the wife and the daughter. Who else?
Somebody actually had said that the man did, but I don't think that's true then, if he
No, he
moved
didn't
away.
die. My neighbor, my old neighbor, Mrs. Kennedy, was the first one on the scene. That's who told me about it, and she stopped a long way before the accident. And the man who was behind her came and went to her door and said, "Can you go look and see if anybody is alive in that car?" And she said, no, my heart, I can't go and look.
Yeah. Well, he didn't want to live right down the road from where his wife was sold, wife and daughter.
Wife, a teenage daughter, and wife, and it was horrific what actually happened to them in the car. They were dismembered. And so he couldn't live with that anymore.
So he just wanted to move. He wanted to move. Yeah.
And I knew Merle Manahari, who had gone with Nyananda looking. And Nyananda wanted to buy a property that didn't have any buildings on it. And Merle said, well, let's buy the property that has the buildings on it.
And this one was already there.
Yeah, well, the big house that burned down.
Yeah.
And they had a barn too. There were 15 55-gallon drums of oil in the barn that the devotees blew up.
Blew up?
They used to start grass fires by accident. In the summer, it's real easy. One spark and the dry grass just keeps going in every direction. And
Why didn't the barn blow up?
well, I guess it did because it's not here anymore.
Or a different barn?
Oh, yeah, different barn. It was over there if I were.
So they burned the farmhouse and blew up the barn?
Well, they burned the farmhouse down making the.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
over there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Dewey Gucci used to talk about when Prabhupada came, when the cars came up the driveway, Dewey Gucci was acting like the director, and he was going like this, and go over this way, park here. And Prabhupada got out of the car and he looked at him, and he looked him all the way up and down.
And what?
He just, the look, he said, look, Prabhupada gave him, he looked at him, he looked him up, down, and walked away.
You think you're real important, huh?
Blue Dipper will have to tell us what he felt about that.
Yeah.
And the people, the devotees were all hanging in the windows watching Prabhupada make the rice,
Oh, yeah.
and, or the whole meal, and Dewey just said, just one grain of that rice, it was the most perfect rice in the whole world.
You felt the transcendental dimension.
We needed to hear about Prabhupada.
Yeah. Anything
To
else?
remind us he was actually here.
Yeah.
I forget that a lot.
Thank you for your class.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody. So, Glories to Srila Prabhupada, glories to Srimad Bhagavatam.
Jai